It's good to see you again in VNA News. I'm Vi Hằng from Hanoi with the major stories. Vietnam-Laos Intergovernmental Committee meets in Vientiane. Vietnam trade gap with China hits record high. Tourism sector fulfills targets set in development strategy. The Friendship Hospital hosted a ceremony in Hanoi on December 27th to receive the title Labor Hero. Party General Secretary and many other officials attended the event. Established on March 28, 1958, with the initial name of the Vietnam-Soviet Friendship Hospital, it was renamed as the Friendship Hospital in 1994. Over the past 60 years, the hospital has developed strongly and become a reliable clinic of high-ranking officials of the party and states, as well as people in Hanoi and neighboring localities. Over the past decade, the Friendship Hospital has been tasked with caring for almost 1,000 senior officials. In its capacity as the leading medical establishment, the hospital has successfully ensured healthcare services for conferences of the party, state, National Assembly, and major events of the country. It has been also a leading establishment in applying and developing new, advanced techniques in medical checkup and treatment. On behalf of the party and state, Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam presented the title Labor Hero to the hospital. He praised the contributions of the hospital staff and thanked regional and international organizations for their assistance to the country's health sector and the hospital in particular. The Vietnam-Laos Intergovernmental Committee convened its 38th meeting in Vientiane on December 27th. Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc and his Lao counterpart Somsavat Lengsavat co-chaired the event. At the meeting, the two sides reviewed the implementation of the Vietnam-Laos Cooperation Agreement in the 2011-2015 period and discussed the direction for cooperation for the next 5 years. The two sides noted with pleasure that Vietnam and Laos have smoothly arranged visits and meetings between their high-ranking leaders and set up an annual exchange mechanism between the foreign ministers and chairpersons of the party's central committee's commissions for external relations. They house that bilateral cooperation in defense and security has been strengthened. The two countries have spared no effort to accomplish a project on planting and upgrading border markers. In regard to investments, by the end of December, Laos has licensed 413 Vietnamese projects with a combined registered capital of $4.9 billion. Two-way trade has grown steadily, hitting $1.3 billion in 2015. For the 2016-2020 period, the two sides agreed to step up the performance of already signed deals, increase the exchange of high-level delegations, and enhance the effectiveness of existing cooperation mechanisms. Vietnamese and Laos officials pledged to create favorable conditions and remove all obstacles for investors from both nations. Vietnam bought large amounts of goods from China in 2015, pushing the trade gap to a record high. More details come up next. The latest statistics from the General Statistics Office show that import revenue for the year from China hit $49.3 billion, while export earnings reached $17 billion, resulting in a trade deficit of $32.3 billion, up 12.5% from last year. Much of the increase in imports from China was fueled by a surge in buying of cell phones, computers, machinery, and equipment, while exports failed to pick up significant steam as the northern neighbor's economy shows signs of slowing. Other statistics show Vietnam's trade deficit with the Republic of Korea rose 28% to $13.7 billion, while that with ASEAN shot up 45% to $5.5 billion, and Japan registered a $3 million shortfall. An estimated $10.71 million will be poured into the upgrade of the domestic terminal at the Nội Bài International Airport in Hanoi. Work will begin in June and be completed in 2 years.
After the upgrade, which is now awaiting the Transport Ministry's approval, the terminal will be able to serve around 15 million passengers per year. It will be the second expansion for the domestic terminal since 2013, when its capacity soared from 6 million passengers to 9 million. Adjacent to the domestic, the Nội Bài International Terminal, which opened early this year, is capable of serving 10 million passengers.
Remittances sent by overseas Vietnamese to the homeland have steadily risen by roughly $1 billion annually over the past few years, and the trend is forecast to continue into the foreseeable future. In the first 11 months of this year, the total amount of remittances sent back to Vietnam are estimated at $12.5 billion, with the largest portion of $5.5 billion flowing into the southern economic hub of Ho Chi Minh City. A representative of the State Bank of Vietnam's Ho Chi Minh City branch said the government's new policies encouraging overseas Vietnamese to assist in the đổi mới renovation have helped to spark the higher remittance levels. Additionally, local banks are beginning to focus their marketing efforts on non-traditional remittance markets like Japan and Malaysia. The booming real estate market in Ho Chi Minh City has been one of the key selling points in nurturing collections from both the traditional markets of Canada, the US, and Australia, as well as the non-traditional markets. Meanwhile, the State Committee for Overseas Vietnamese Affairs reports nearly 5 million Vietnamese reside in 103 countries around the globe, and there is a strong correlation between the higher numbers of overseas Vietnamese and remittances. After 5 years of implementing the tourism development strategy by 2020, Vietnam's tourism sector has successfully fulfilled its set target in terms of number of visitors and revenues.
Vietnam welcomed nearly 7 million foreign visitors and 53.8 million domestic tourists in the 11 months of this year, or 6.7% and 46% higher than the yearly target. The indicator of infrastructure and human resources development was also fulfilled. Some 14,500 accommodation establishments are available in the country this year. 5-star hotels and luxury resorts have been built at beaches in the central, south central coastal and northern regions. The number of people working directly and indirectly in the tourism industry grew by 13.4% to around 1.2 million. The tourism sector has become an economic spearhead as its contribution to Vietnam's GDP increased annually as its revenue rose from 130 trillion Vietnam dong in 2001 to 230 trillion Vietnam dong in 2014 and reached nearly 313 trillion Vietnam dong in the first 11 months of this year. Last year, Vietnam welcomed nearly 7.9 million foreign visitors and 38.5 domestic tourists.
Scientists and researchers have highlighted the importance of the Hung King worship rituals and its roles in strengthening national unity and the spiritual life in modern society at a workshop in Ho Chi Minh City on December 26. Let's take a look. Lê Hồng Lý, head of the Institute of Cultural Studies under the Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences, said the worshipping rituals of the Hung Kings have become a national symbol gathering communities and ethnic groups living across Vietnam. It has also been a symbol for community unity in all places in the world where Vietnamese people live. Meanwhile, Director of the Ho Chi Minh National Academy of Politics, Tạ Ngọc Tấn, stressed that as the world intangible cultural heritage, the values of the Hung King worship rituals should be promoted, and the state's management in preserving the cultural heritage is needed. Hung King is the title given to the ancient Vietnamese rulers of the Hồng Bàng period, 2879 to 258 before Christ. They were the Hung Kings of Văn Lang. The worshipping rituals of the Hung Kings was recognized as a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity in 2012. At the end of the bulletin today, let's review the 10 most outstanding events of Vietnam in 2015, selected by VNA News Agency. Party congresses at all levels across the country reached success, setting out orientations, missions and measures for socio-economic development, and electing party committees for the 2015-2022 year. They were an important prerequisite for the successful organization of the 12th National Party Congress. Amid global economic hardships, Vietnam's GDP growth rate exceeded 6.6%, the fastest pace in the last 5 years, and higher than the 6.2% target set by the National Assembly. Inflation was controlled at low level, 0.63%, while overall social welfare has been ensured. Vietnam observed a number of major anniversaries in 2015, such as the 85th founding anniversary of the Communist Party of Vietnam on February the 3rd, 125th birth anniversary of late President Ho Chi Minh, May 19th, 70 years of the August Revolution and National Day, September 2nd, and 40 years of the South's liberation and national reunification, April 30th. With the Hanoi Declaration, the Sustainable Development Goals turning words into action, the 132nd Assembly of the Interparliamentary Union, or IPU 132, hosted by Vietnam for the first time, reflected the active role and responsibility of the IPU's member parliaments. Vietnam completed negotiation on 4 free trade agreements with the Eurasian Economic Union, the European Union, the Republic of Korea, and members of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The ASEAN Economic Community is especially expected to create more opportunities for Vietnam to intensively integrate into the regional and global economies. The completion of a number of major transport projects in 2015, including National Roads upgraded section from Thanh Hóa Province to Cần Thơ Province, the Ho Chi Minh City Long Thành Dầu Dây Highway, Ho Chi Minh Roads section through the Central Highlands, and the Hanoi, Hải Phòng and Nội Bài Lào Cai highways created breakthroughs in the country's infrastructure development. With the goal of fundamentally and comprehensively renovating education and training, a national high school examination was held for the first time, combining the high school graduation and university entrance examinations. Judicial reforms made progress in 2015, as seen in lawmaking, the reshuffle of judicial and judicial support agencies along the direction of enhancing the effectiveness of prevention of law violation and unjust judgment, while increasing the protection of human rights. Vietnam maintained its place among the top 3 countries in the Southeast Asian Games, or SEA Games, with 73 gold medals at the 20th SEA Games, with 85% of the goals coming from Olympic sports. A number of excellent young sport persons also emerged in 2015, including swimmer Vientiane Viên, who won the biggest number of individual gold medals at a SEA Games since 1977. The anniversary was a major cultural event of Vietnam with a series of activities nationwide, peaking with a grand ceremony on December 5th in Hà Tĩnh Province, Nguyễn Du's hometown. Other events also took place at the international level in line with the UNESCO resolution honoring the poet. And that has wrapped up our daily bulletin. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye from Hanoi.